Thanks for watching my video. Today let's integrate this to integral of e to the x plus 1 over e to the x minus 1 and e to the x minus 1 over e to the x plus 1. Just the sign is changed. Only the sign is changed. So what will be our answer? So let's integrate now. Integral of e to the x plus 1 over e to the x minus 1 dx. Now we are going to do some simplification. E to the x plus 1. This is the original one. The e to the x plus 1 plus e to the x minus 1 e to the x over e to the x minus 1 dx. Am I right? E to the x will cancel, so it will be the same thing again. Now from this we can see that this e to the x and e to the x are same thing. So let me put out e minus e to the x, this one first, plus 1 plus 2 e to the x. This 2, this and this plus over e to the x minus 1 dx. Now separate, let's separate now. It will be minus e to the x plus 1 over e to the x minus 1 dx plus 2 integral of e to the x over e to the x minus 1 dx. This we separate now like this. In here just take negative common. If you take negative common, that means e to the x minus 1 over e to the x minus 1 dx plus 2. In here let's use substitution method. Put u equal to e to the x minus 1, that means du will be e to the x du dx. In here only this part, we use substitution method only. So e to the x dx is du over this is du. Now this will cancel out. Now we left is what? Integral of dx will be just x. Plus 2. This will be what? Log of u. Log u. U is what? E to the x minus 1. E to the x minus 1 plus constant of integration. This is our answer to question number 1, Roman number 1, or question number 1. Now second one. Integral of e to the x minus 1 over e to the x plus 1 dx. Or second one you can do in two way. But I'm going to show you here only one. Only in one way. This one, you can separate from this now. You can separate from this and you can integrate. But let's do the other one. This one I can write as e to the x minus 1 plus e to the x minus e to the x over e to the x plus 1 dx. Same thing, am I right? So this will be where now this e to the x and e to the x will be 2 e to the x minus e to the x minus 1 over e to the x plus 1 dx. Now separate them. 2 e to the x over e to the x plus 1 dx. Here taking out minus common. Minus common. Integral of e to the x plus 1 over e to the x plus 1 dx. Only this part use substitution method. Use substitution method, and if you use substitution method and if you solve it, you get what? Let me say that 2 log of e to the x plus 1. Minus this is we cancel out, so it will be only x. Am I right? This plus c. This is one way. This Roman number 2 we can solve in two way. let me show you here. Since there are many space here, this one, okay, e to the x minus 1 over e to the x plus 1 dx. Okay, this is just the same thing. Okay, this one you can separate it now. E to the x over e to the x plus 1 minus, here sorry, dx minus 1 over e to the x plus 1 dx only. Okay, now here if you use substitution method, you get what? Log of e to the x plus 1, okay, and minus in here, just do simplification, okay, e to the x plus 1 minus e to the x over e to the x plus 1 dx. Okay, these two we cancel, so that's just the same thing. So log of e to the x plus 1 minus, just separate out them, integral e to the x plus 1 over e to the x plus 1 dx. This minus and this minus become plus, integral of e to the x over e to the x plus 1 dx. This is just the same as this one, sorry, this one. So this and this will add up, so it will be what? Twice log of e to the x plus 1. Okay, this one if you do by substitution method, okay, you will get log of e to the x plus 1, and this will plus out, minus this two will cancel out, and only x plus c. Okay, since the I do in different way, but our last answer is just the same thing.